Leaders announced they have narrowed the list of potential candidates to replace Vinny Palermo. He was recently removed from the city council because of his ties to a public corruption scandal. The finalists are Rebecca Barrientos Patlin, Terry Blackburn, former District 4 Councilman Gary Gurnett, Ron Hugg, and Eric Sevelin. The final candidates will be interviewed in a public hearing a week from tomorrow. The city council plans to appoint a new member on September 12th.